Ask yourself, when was the last time your biggest fear actually happened? Because in reality, if your biggest fears ever happened, you wouldn't be here today.
We all have our fears, and some of them are completely irrational. As a child, I remember that I was really horrified if I had to pick up a phone and call someone I didn't know at all. And really, it took me years to overcome that anxiety. And up until this day, I don't know what caused that fear in me, but I do know that, once I faced them, it felt so good to, do something that you're afraid of. And that's what I'm talking today with Mo about. We're talking about fear and why it is so very important to face your fears.
There is a way for us to deal with our fear, which is all centered around the truth. Because in a way, our fear is an exaggerated response. If we sort of, narrow it down to the reality, then most of the time we would realize, you know what, this is really not as frightening as I think it is. And I there are many, I have a model of 7 steps, but I'll take you through the 3 most important ones. I think the idea is to start with acknowledging your fear, okay? Most of us don't want to admit that we're afraid because, you know how it is. In the modern world, you have to appear, I am solid, everything's going fine all the time. Yeah, I can't be weak, I can't be vulnerable. That's not the way the world wants to perceive. I want to be perceived in the world. If you acknowledge your fear and name it and say, look, I am afraid of public speaking. It's the truth. So reality is, what's the worst that can happen? What's the best that can happen? We don't think of that. What's the best that can happen? I may be out there. I may do a really good job if I'm not tense. What are the possibilities of the best and the worst happening? And how can I improve those possibilities? The probability of me being tense and doing a bad job is much higher than me being relaxed and doing a bad job. And so once you understand the reality of your fear, somehow it starts to become a little more attackable, if I may use the word, okay? And then that's the biggest step. And I've done that, believe it, on over years and years and years of defining my fears because they sort of hinder me, and then jumping to make the vow, as I say. Making the vow is, you're afraid of public speaking, make sure that you commit to the absolute nearest opportunity to speak in public, find the biggest possible crowd, face your fear. Once you commit yourself to facing your fear, you suddenly start to recognize that it's not really that bad. You're afraid that your partner might leave you if you tell them something that is really annoying you. Text them and say, there is something we need to talk about tonight over dinner. Okay, commit yourself to it. You're afraid that if you tell your boss the reality about how horribly they treat you, then your boss doesn't. If you're that afraid, then tell them, I need a one-to-one appointment. Prepare yourself to say, these are the realities of how I feel. These are the realities of what I'm going to say. Here is what I'm willing to be open about. And I encourage you to be open about everything. By the way, fear is not only from others. Some of us are afraid of spiders. And of course, yes, there is a reason for some of us to be afraid of those hairy, big, poisonous ones. But the tiny ones, seriously, try to work with someone. Try to find a specialist, but face that fear. And there is now even technology, believe it or not, that allows you to simulate that fear in ways that would make you suddenly realize that it was an exaggerated illusion. And when you see the illusion goes away. And when you face your fear, the fear is no longer there to haunt you.
And it allows you to reach your full potential, right?
And then you have that state of peace. Remember, we defined happiness as I am at peace, I am calm, I'm okay with life as it is. And you can't be at peace. You cannot be at peace if you're afraid of a future that has never happened and that is always going to be a future. Okay? If I tell myself one day my partner will leave me, I will spend the entire relationship, which could last for months or years or tens of years, with that same fear, because as long as it's not realized, it still remains.
In your book, you say, learn to live before you die. Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah. You know, death is our biggest fear, and because we are stuck all our lives in fears, we're not actually living. Most of the time, if you're thinking about the future, remember we spoke about that when we spoke about being present. When you're stuck in the future, you're stuck inside your head. You're not in the real world. And when you're afraid, you don't take chances, you don't try, you don't experiment, you don't change. You're so used to the rhythm and you don't want to change. And when you don't want to change, you don't fully live. Life is supposed to be unpredictable sometimes. Life is supposed to be refreshing and changing, and it doesn't have to be monotonous. Of course you need a reasonable amount of safety. But
Yes, sure.
there are no tigers running around in our cities. There is really not that much to be afraid of if we really recognize how serious our fears are exaggerated. The thing about living fully is to realize this. Ask yourself, when was the last time your biggest fear actually happened? Because in reality, if your biggest fears ever happened, you wouldn't be here today. We think about so much that has never happened over the years. Never happened. It crippled us and it never happened. Yet, we keep doing it again today. Instead of actually saying, well, maybe I should surrender and let go and go through life and live fully.
That, I think, is a beautiful ending to this topic. Thank you.